In this module, we will look into the organization and functions of the municipal system in India. We have to remember that prior to 1992 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which was later incorporated into Part 9A of the Constitution, across India in different urban locations and different urban conglomerations, there were different kinds of municipal bodies known more for their diversities and different practices, different institutional setups. Some were elected, some were nominated. So, that could have added some color and flavor to the entire municipal system, but post 1992, post 74th Amendment Act, we have got a uniform system across India, and we will base our observations, base our discussions on the provisions of this 74th Amendment Act or provisions of Articles 243 capital P to 243 capital Z and G, arranged alphabetically of course, and which form Part 9A of the Constitution of India. Now, let us see what is meant by a municipal system, and we have seen that earlier that when you read Article 243 capital P and Article 243 capital Q together, we find some kind of an idea about what can be a municipal system. It means any municipal body, any local body of governance for any urban location all over India, and this is a kind of a constitutional definition of a municipality in India. By the provisions of Article 243 capital Q, the Constitution mentions three kinds of municipal systems across India, based of course on the number of people they serve. For a very large urban area, for example, Kolkata or Mumbai or Chennai, we have municipal corporations. For areas slightly smaller, we have municipal councils, and for areas which have been rural, but are now becoming urban, which means they are transiting from one level to another level, there are Nagar Panchayats, or by other specific names it could be. So, in that case we have three levels of municipal systems in India. Now, how they are composed, and this is where the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act makes an innovation, that though for example, the Kolkata Municipal Corporation or the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, they were mainly elected bodies, but there were smaller municipalities or municipal councils in smaller towns or cities which are not elective bodies or elected bodies, they are mostly nominated. Now, by virtue of Article 243 capital R, these bodies are now, which means the municipal corporations, the municipal councils and the Nagar Panchayats are mostly elected bodies. Though that does not mean that they do not have on their rolls nominated members, there are important nominated members. For example, the elected members of parliament of both houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the elected MLCs whose constituency can be included within the limit of a particular urban area which a particular municipality serves, they are automatically the nominated members of these municipal bodies, as are some persons who are experts in the field of municipal administration or otherwise, they too are there as ministers. And also the municipal commissioner, one who carries on the day to day task of running a municipality, is usually a civil service officer. The mayor is an elected person, as are other councillors, as they are known by the name councillors. So, it is basically an elected body by virtue of Article 243 capital R. As far as election goes, we have mentioned about the system of reservation. We know that even prior to the 74th Amendment Act, for our state legislatures and for our national legislature, the Lok Sabha, seats have been reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribe population in proportion to their number present in a particular constituency area. The same system continues for the municipalities also, but most importantly, added to it is the system of reservation for women, which is not there at any level of elected legislature. And 74th Amendment Act has introduced a 33 1/3% reservation for women candidates, and this holds true even within the scheduled caste reservation system, scheduled tribe reservation system, which means that even among the reserved scheduled caste candidates, 33 1/3% should be women, and the same goes for the scheduled tribes. Even for the posts of the councillors, or at least in case of the rural government, some officials, these are also reserved for women, and they rotate, which means no seat is kept infinitely for a woman member. So, it goes across all the wards or all the specific units of municipal governance. They are usually known as wards in urban areas, and that is a very interesting or very significant addition to the municipal governance system, because by sheer number women form half the number of voters, and it is only a matter of logic that they should have the right to send their own representatives, which is not there till this particular amendment came to be operationalized from April 1993. The second important addition is that the formation of ward committees. Ward committees are somewhat comparable to the rural areas, the Gram Sabhas of the Panchayat system. The ward committees actually are for bigger cities with a population of 3 lakhs or more, and for each ward there is a committee whose composition is prescribed by law, and they look after the needs of the particular ward, and this adds a very important democratic element, in that in the ward committee meetings every voter of that particular ward can attend the ward committee meetings and can raise their voice, raise their demands, and also can criticize and look into the accounts of the corporation in that sense. So, this is also very important in the case of democratizing the governance system at the urban local level. Before we come to the an examination of the functions or otherwise, you also have to mention that the role of the State Finance Commission, which is for both the rural panchayats and for the urban municipalities. The State Finance Commission suggests ways and means of raising revenues for both the panchayats and the municipalities, ways and means of sharing revenues between the state and the municipalities, because the municipal system, like the panchayat system, is entirely under state supervision. And also the creation and continuing activities of the State Election Commission, which is entrusted with the task of holding and supervising elections to the urban local bodies and also elections to the rural local bodies. So, as far as innovations go, these are very important additions to the municipal system, that is making it elective, the introduction of ward committees, the women's reservation system, and finally, the State Election Commission and the State Finance Commission. By the provision of Article 243 capital U, the Constitution talks about the duration of municipal systems of the municipalities. Previously, there was discrepancy across the country regarding the term of a municipal system or municipal body It was 4 years in some places and 5 years in some other, or even less than that. And also there is a danger of being dissolved before the term was completed, because there is often interference from the state level ministry, because municipality had always been under state control. Article 243 capital U tries to tried to take care of that by insisting on a uniform 5 years term for every municipal body, irrespective of its size, be it corporation or council or Nagar Panchayat. Of course, they can be dissolved before the term is completed, but for that there is a difficult procedure of getting the whole thing approved by the municipality itself, which is almost impossible in that sense. And a fresh election has to be held before the end of the term, or at least within 6 months after the end of the term, which means a municipal system cannot be kept in some kind of I would say in a comatose manner, or in some kind of suspended animation on one predicts on the another. So, elections have to be completed, a new body has to be formed within 6 years of the within 6 months of the dissolution of the assembly. That is further safeguarding the existence of the municipalities. And after this, we take a look into the most important and also sometimes the most controversial or debated area of the municipal system, that is the powers and responsibilities of the municipal bodies. As regards the powers and responsibilities, there is specifically Article 243 capital W to be read with the provisions of the 12th schedule, because details are there in the 12th schedule. Basically is that a municipal body has to take up such tasks or such functions which would enable it to function as an institution of local self government, which is giving them a very broad area of power. Specifically, we will come to that when we read into the 12th schedule. That would need some kind of a straight reading into the 12th schedule, which we will be doing shortly. But basically, the municipalities' powers can be shortlisted as for imposing and raising taxes for municipal provisions and municipal activities, taking care of local health and education facilities, or specifically primary education facilities. These are the basic tasks or the municipal tasks. And now allow me to look into the 12th schedule, where you can find some detailing regarding the responsibilities of the municipal systems. They include urban planning, regulation of land use and construction of buildings, planning for economic and social development of the area under concern, roads and bridges, water supply for domestic as well as non-domestic purposes, public health, sanitation, conservancy and solid waste management, all of which have relevance for hygiene and health, fire services, urban forestry, which is a recent practice of developing smaller forested areas for environmental purposes, protection of the environment, safeguarding the interests of the weaker sections of society, including handicapped and mentally retarded, slum improvement and upgradation. And slums are a permanent and a regular feature across the different metropolises of India. And regarding this urban poverty alleviation, there are systems of for municipality taking initiative in forming urban self-help groups for instituting skill development courses, so that the urban youth can upgrade their skills for earning their livelihoods. We have provisions of facilities, urban facilities like parks, playgrounds and primary health cares, Promotion of cultural, educational, aesthetic purposes. We can see that in different municipalities, at least across our state, we can find auditoria are being constructed so that cultural activities can take place there, or even galleries are being constructed for exhibiting works of painting or photography. Burial and burial grounds, cremation grounds and electric crematoria. Prevention of cruelty to animals. Vital statistics, this is also very important, that maintaining a register of daily births and deaths, that is very important, and they are in some municipalities they are prominently displayed across the city. Public amenities like street lighting, bus stops, public conveniences, that also is one of the responsibilities of the municipal systems. And finally, regulation of slaughterhouses and tanneries, which can be found in some municipal areas. So, this is not entirely all. The state government by legislation can add to it, or can detract from it, or can modify it. So, newer and newer responsibilities can come up for these municipal systems. The most important is the issue of finance. We can note in advance that municipalities have limited power of raising their own revenues. They are not empowered to impose too many taxes, and they are dependent on primarily and fundamentally on state governments for fundings. Though they have some amounts of taxation, which you all know that our house taxes we pay every year, and there are other taxes too, but they are not at all enough in that sense. So, the basic responsibility of financing the municipalities, and that is also a very I would say a point of debate, a point of controversy and conflict between the state governments and the municipalities across the states of India, that they are financially totally dependent on the generosity of the state governments, even with the State Finance Commission being in place. Because after all, the State Finance Commission is formed by the state government, and in the formation of which municipalities do not have any say. So, the state level officers who man the State Finance Commission can only be expected to be loyal not to the municipalities, but to the state government, and this takes a I would say an interesting turn, or I would say not so welcome turn, that if there is one particular political party in power at the state level, and a particular municipality is controlled by some other political party in opposition to the state level political party, then that can create a further problem of allegations of stepmotherly treatment from the state government, as state governments too have been raising that allegation against the center for stepmotherly treatment. The same kind of allegations are raised by the municipalities against the state government for a denial or a delay in getting the necessary funds, because after all this people living in urban locality, they would turn to municipalities if anything goes wrong, if they are denied of essential civic services, if waterlogging takes place, if the conservancy workers do not turn up and garbages pile up, if the lights do not get lighted up in the evening and there is darkness around, if the parks are dilapidated, not fit for the children to play, for any kind of outbreak of epidemic, we are familiar with that. So, the municipal body of any size, corporation, council or nagar panchayats, they bear the initial brunt, the most important brunt of the public anger and public expectation or public disappointment, and they have to accept that, because they can't do anything without adequate hold over resources which they can manage without the generosity of the state government. The provisions of Part 9A, which relate to the municipal system, of course, do not work within the scheduled areas as given in 5th schedule, and also within the limits of the Darjeeling Gorkha Hill Council in West Bengal. The President and the Governor particularly the governor of a state, is free to designate any area as a municipal area excepting these areas, and he or she is also free to redesignate area from a municipal corporation to a municipal council, or can upgrade a Nagar Panchayat to a higher level. That depends on the discretion of the chief executive of the state. So, that is in a nutshell the major points of part 9A, which came in the wake of 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, and which deal specifically with the urban local bodies of various sizes all across India. This is still a system in the making, still new laws are being made, because as we have seen previously that it took more than 300 years to come to the present system. So, it is futile to expect that in the last few years we have reached a most perfect system. The major problems that do derail the working of this system is basically, one, the problem of lack of funds, and more importantly a lack of control on the part of the municipality over raising funds or raising revenues. And maybe no state government is willing to give that kind of fiscal autonomy to the municipalities, which may then, if they get such fiscal autonomy to raise their own revenues, they may emerge as alternative or parallel centers of power, because these are also popularly elected bodies, and that can be one fear which works behind the state governments in not giving enough resources, enough right to raise enough resources for the municipalities. Actually, we are more comfortable, we have been accustomed to the two levels of governance, the two-tiered governance, the national government and the state government, and in fact municipalities and panchayats, as we can see later, if they get their own right to raise revenues, they can emerge as a very effective third tier of governance, and that can be a bit unsettling for the state governments or for the party in power at the state level. The second problem is that after the elective principle came into play, and the majority members are elected now, political parties also came along with it, and in major municipalities across India there is a danger, and there is actually a existing problem of over politicization, and which does affect the functioning of the municipalities. As you can very well see from the experience of the Kolkata Municipal Corporation, and oftentimes the non-elected member, the government official who works as the commissioner of the municipality, he or she runs the entire municipality, while the popularly elected house is locked in some political battle or some kind of a political problem. So, these are the major problems, but of course, with the changing governance systems, with the present changes coming into place, the stress is not so much on politics now as in on governance and also on self-governance. So, things might change for the better, but of course, any change would require definitely one thing, that municipalities should have more control over raising their own resources. With the system of governance coming into place right now in the changing world, the stress is on good governance, and that includes the municipal systems as well, not only national governments or state governments. So, the needs of good governance can bring in its wake necessary changes, necessary modifications, but all such modifications and changes can work to the fullest possible extent only when municipal bodies are assured of their own control over resources with which to work.